I suppose in a way I could probably sum it up as a bit of a blessing and a curse, because the negative side to this phenomena and the UFO phenomena is that people don't take you seriously. They think that you're crazy or, conspiracy theorist or something like that. So the motivation is a double-edged sword. It can be the negative side can be a demotivator, but the positive side, what motivates me is the vivid memories of all the experiences I've had visiting something in the region of 1,000 crop circles now over the last 20 years, and my growing knowledge that the Earth is in serious trouble and that humanity is in serious trouble. This message, I think, is here to help us all individually and collectively make the world a better place.
Look at that. I gotta come look at that. Look at even the smile's the same.
I'd been staying in Wiltshire at the time. I was at Cardiff University studying language and communication, and it was 6 weeks break, so for the summer. So I took my caravan, my trailer, down to Wiltshire from Cardiff. I was living in Cardiff at the time, and decided to spend 6 weeks visiting the crop circles. And so on the 6th, every day I went to a crop circle cafe, every single day, and every single day I put the same DVD on the DVD player. On the 6th of July, I had already planned that on the 7th, on the night of the 6th, going into the 7th, I was going to do this night watch. And so in the daytime on the 6th of July, I'd gone to the cafe as normal, and yet this day, for some reason, I decided to put on another DVD. And it was a DVD about balls of light that somebody had made about the balls of light that people film in Wiltshire. I noticed after about an hour or so, I noticed a man there was a little bit of a commotion at the back of the shop, and this man sort of rushed out past me, and I stopped him to ask him what was happening, and he told me that he'd just seen an interview on this DVD where somebody had described seeing a ball of light that he'd actually witnessed himself 20 years ago. He'd been at the field doing a night watch. He's a UFO investigator. He was doing a night watch. He watched a ball of light move out into the field, open up and expand, flatten about a 20-foot circle of wheat. The ball then closed up into another sphere and flew off into the distance. He tried to get his camcorder sort of geared up, ready to film this thing, but it all happened before he could even get his recording equipment to work. So every year, for 20 years, this man had been coming back to Wiltshire with the same location, with more and more sophisticated camera equipment, trying to capture the same thing again. And he thought that he was the only witness to that event. But when he watched this DVD that I'd by chance put on that day, he realised that somebody else was at the location and they'd seen the same thing from a different vantage point and had described the event that he'd seen. And so he wanted to rush off to get some money from the cash point, the ATM, to buy the DVD. So I thought it was a cool story. So this was my interaction with this man. Okay, so later on in the night, I already planned to go up and do this night watch, and I thought I was going to do it on my own. But my girlfriend called me from Cardiff, and she said, has there been a crop circle today? And I said, no, there hasn't. And she said that she just walked into town and that there was wheat growing out of the paving stones in the gaps between the pavements. This is a city. There are no farms anywhere near this area, so there was no reason that wheat should be growing out the pavement. But it freaked her out enough to say, I'm coming down to Wiltshire tonight to do the night watch with you. So she travelled down from Cardiff and met me at my trailer about 11:30, and we prepared ourselves and moved off to Nap Hill to do the night watch. And when we got there, Winston, the man that I'd met in the day with the coincidence with the DVD, was already there with all of his camera equipment set up. I had no idea that he was going to be there. So it felt like we were chess pieces on a board that had been moved into place for this event. He felt something was going to happen. He'd scouted locations that day, and he just said that when he got to this area, he felt something, and he knew that this was the place he had to stay. And we were the same. And so we sat there and we chatted, and we had the most fantastic conversation. This man was a scientist, and I was into metaphysical things with chi and so on through my studies of martial arts, and we were having a conversation where he was putting something from a scientific point of view and I was putting something from a metaphysical point of view, but rather than arguing with each other, we were finding common ground. And as we were finding common ground, the conversation was getting higher and higher and higher, and we were getting really buzzed off of this conversation, so much that we weren't really paying attention to what was going on around us. And so when the white flash of light happened, we were all surprised, but we were so intensely engrossed in this conversation that we just carried on talking for another 20 minutes and sort of didn't really look at the issue of the light for a minute. And then about 20 minutes, when the conversation died down, he decided to look through the night vision camera, and then of course we found this huge crop circle in front of us. So it was the serendipity of all of us being placed in the right place at the right time that really made me convinced that there is a higher intelligence that, if it wants to, it can put us in the right place. Well, I'm not a ufologist. I'm very interested in UFOs. I loved them when I was a child. It's one of my earliest memories was watching science fiction movies. The Day the Earth Stood Still is my earliest childhood memory of watching a UFO film and being fascinated with it. I think that they are in difficulties because there seems to me to be overwhelming evidence that we are being visited by something, from all the testimonials, from the video footage, from the pictures that we've seen. Even governments, NASA and so on, have published video that shows that there are objects flying around us. I've seen them myself in the fields of Wiltshire. The evidence that's put forward seems fairly extraordinary to me, but it's never been extraordinary enough to change the paradigm. And crop circles differ slightly from ufology, and that's why I like the crop circles, because not only do we have the debate about who's making them, but we also have the symbols themselves to try and figure out if there's some kind of narrative or communication or meaning. And that's where UFO studies and crop circle studies are slightly different. The communication of the crop circles is cards on the table. They are giving humanity a history lesson in where we came from, in how we got to where we are through farming, and they are showing us philosophical symbols. They are showing us how people in the past have thought about creation and humans' role on Earth, and they have displayed all these symbols such as the yin yang or the tree of life or the Jewish as above so below, the hexagram symbol, the Star of David. So they are trying to tell us about how we have looked into creation, how we have looked for the role of human beings on Earth, and they are trying to show us where we've been, how we got where we are now, and how we can make choices about what we do to change the future.